Hutton Hut. Nick Hines, a sergeant reporting for duty here on My Racehorse Live, and it's the final Friday of October 2020. And what a wild year it has been. Hopefully you're staying safe and healthy out there in My Racehorse land. I am happy to be here on behalf of MyRacehorse.com. And of course, we've got an exciting show for you today. We're just 7 days away from Breeders' Cup World Championships, and might add to today's show, will actually feature a special guest, Executive Vice President and Chief Racing Officer at the Breeders' Cup, Mrs. Dora Delgado. She is truly one of the best people that I've met in the game. Was fortunate to have met her many years ago, this dating all the way back to the early 90s. But to Dora, she'll be joining the show today. And, of course, updates on runners. We won a race yesterday. Storm Shooter daylighted him out at Belmont Park, and kudos to Todd Pletcher and his staff and Mr. Ortiz with a upstanding ride. So be sure to stay with us throughout the day. And, of course, I want to welcome in my comrades of our social media aspect of things. And, of course, taking notes of what's going on in the world out there of My Racehorse, Hannah Bloom. And, of course, Joe Moran, Joe Mishak, a good Friday to you all.
Hello.
Happy Friday.
Hey, Nick, how are you?
It's one of those where it's kind of a mask on, mask off sort of situation. But, again, staying safe, the key. And Breeders' Cup World Championships is 7 days away. Authentic, on the brink, perhaps, if he were to win the Breeders' Cup Classic, take down that $1 million bonus prize being offered by way of the Haskell and, of course, the Kentucky Derby. Did that happen? And then, of course, the Breeders' Cup World Championship Classic. Hannah, I just want you to remind the folks today, as far as the social aspect of things and what they can do to make their lives and our lives greater.
Yeah, just a reminder to please send in those questions today. Just type them in. And, you mentioned already we'll have Dora Delgado on from Breeders' Cup. She'll be here to kind of talk things Breeders' Cup. So if anyone has some great questions for her before, put them in now, and, maybe we can bring them up for her when she comes on. But either way, we'll have some time during the show to get those questions answered if you have.
All right, fantastic. And be sure to send questions, thoughts that you may have. And, of course, for those that participated, involved in Storm Shooter in that tremendous win yesterday. And, Joe, you couldn't be more happy with the effort, especially considering the race was taken off the turf. I know that was our intention off of the debut effort.
Yeah, no doubt. It's nice to see a horse that we thought very highly of, obviously, at the 2-year-old sale when the three of us saw him earlier this spring, and graduate yesterday, especially showing that, he probably can be versatile. We wanted to see him on that turf, see how versatile he is, but I know we'll get the chance here, whether it's at the end of this year or in spring, summer next year. We'll get to see him show that flexibility that we all think he has.
Yeah, I think the visual is phenomenal. Obviously did it the right way. Nothing like being an even money favorite being hounded by 99 one-shot through 3/4 of the race, but disposing of the field and doing it in fine style. I also want to remind the folks out there in My Racehorse land, Daddy's Joy. They did just step out onto the racetrack for the 5th at Gulfstream Park West, formerly Calder. They're showing 0 minutes to post. She's currently even money. Joe Moran, quick thoughts on the race today as she comes off of her graduating effort.
Yeah, I think she's live right back here, and I think the key is keeping her sprinting. That was the thing Safi Joseph said. He really wanted to keep her sprinting just because she was so successful off the layoff going 5/8. So why change it when we don't have to? And luckily weather is on our side. It is starting to rain here over the past 15-20 minutes, but hopefully it's not too much to affect that turf course.
Yeah, a race that has just a surprisingly a minimal amount of speed. I would expect to see her forwardly placed in this set. Surprisingly that she had shown that much speed on the return, because the idea was potentially to get her to go long. But horse drawn directly outside of her got Glee. Looks to have some tractability, but hopefully Daddy's Joy, she'll have a winning effort going back-to-back for Safi Joseph and our partnership with Slam Dunk Racing. All right, we've got so much action-packed in today's show. We'll keep you updated on Daddy's Joy and that performance. But let's jump into those updates. So we talked a little bit about Storm Shooter. Joe Mishak, off of a race like yesterday, what's next for Storm Shooter?
Yeah, so naturally, when you have that performance, you're like immediately going to the condition book and seeing what's next over at Aqueduct, because they'll move over from Belmont to Aqueduct here in the next week. And really, the only race that was listed was the Notebook Stakes on November 14th, which is represents a pretty quick turnaround. That's 16 days. So we are going to nominate to the race. I heard this morning from Todd Pletcher that Storm Shooter came out of the race excellent, very, very good out of the race. And we'll monitor the situation, monitor how he goes, and make the call on whether or not we want to pursue that race or not. Just so everybody remembers, we nominate to the race. Just because we nominate doesn't mean necessarily that that's where we're going to go. There could be extra races that are written in the condition book later on in the Aqueduct first book. So we'll monitor, but we'll take a strong look at that stakes race.
Great news, and a horse showing that type of precocity. The Twirling Candies, they've shown that they're quite versatile. I'm excited and glad to see him do what he was intended to do, getting the job done yesterday. Joe Moran, obviously I know that you've been putting in the frequent driver miles up the highway. You've been spending time with Team Mandela, and they're kind of the focal point of some upcoming stakes in addition to a potential dance with the Breeders' Cup Marathon. What say you?
Yeah, so we'll start with Laneway. Laneway is scheduled. He's entered to run on Sunday in the Let It Ride Stakes, which is a restricted 3-year-old stake race. Going a mile on the turf, 75,000. He's coming off a second place finish. The work we're going to be looking at here on video was a little 3/8 blowout breeze he had the other morning. And this was just to kind of take the edge off him, is what trainer Richard Mandela said. And, he had 2 works prior to this. The work before that would have been 10-day spacing between the race. And you could tell, being there personally for this work, he was really on his toes with the pony. The pony guided him the whole way down the backstretch. And when he first took off, he was ready to go. And he did this under strong wraps and traveled great. So Richard was super happy, and he's going into the race great. I would say this race from a handicapping perspective came up similar to an allowance race. So he fits right in there, and that's why I think he's co-third choice in that race. And hopefully we get a clean trip and he comes running like he has been.
I know that you'd sent on an update regarding Drayden Van Dyke, as Bob Baffert announced it and probably would be ridden by Irad Ortiz Jr. So I know the camp has been in conversation regarding a rider. I understand there's no commitment as of yet as pertaining to that.
Yeah, well, that would be for Tis Magician. For Laneway, Drayden Van Dyke. Yeah, right. You're all right. But Drayden Van Dyke is going to take over for Flavian Pratt due to Flavian Pratt not being able to ride opening weekend at Del Mar. And then moving into Tis Magician, like you were saying, we are still confirming a rider. Drayden Van Dyke will not be attending the Breeders' Cup. So that's still up in the air. And Tis Magician worked yesterday, if we can pull up that video, and he worked very well. And I'll kind of walk us through this work and how it was designed by trainer Richard Mandela. But it was kind of what we want to call a wake-up work. So he's done this in the past with this horse in particular. He lets the horse go off at a pretty good clip. He wants him to get off running. And then coming into the far turn like we see right here, exercise rider Mary is going to kind of slow him down, let him relax a little bit. And then when they straighten out, she's going to ask him to run, and he responded very well. Richard was very happy. He had a big smile on his face after the work. He was looking for me. I was filming in the stands, but he was looking all over for me because he was pretty happy. So pending he comes out of the work in good order, the plan would be to enter on Monday, and he would ship on Wednesday.
All right, fantastic. And there is a good view of Tis Magician moving quite fluidly. I wanted to get back to Lane Way in regard to that rider situation with the fact that Flavian Pratt, who was enlisted to ride due to the fact that Del Mar would disallow the point of him going to Kentucky due to COVID restrictions. So unfortunately out of our hands. And the good news is Drayden Van Dyke, he's had some good team chemistry with us at MyRacehorse.com. So we look forward to that. If you were to estimate an odds on Lane Way for the Let It Ride, I'm giving you a morning line. What would he be in that sense?
Well, I know the morning line, but you want me to guess what is going to be a post time?
I want to know what you
My
think.
morning. Oh, I think it's a fair morning line because it is that stakes company. the favorite. I think he is a deserving favorite, but I think he's kind of that lukewarm favorite for a reason. So I think that's why you're seeing him there at 3-1.
Right.
7-2, 4-1. I think we're right there, and I think that's fitting. I did not think he would be 2-1 or anything like that. I didn't think he would be the favorite in this. But the one thing about this horse, he shows up and runs every time. The turf has seemed to kind of step up his game a little bit. And if we get a good trip, he's doing great right now. So I'm expecting him to come with another big performance.
Yeah, it looks as if on paper, you've got the bigger prices in there between Dominant Soul, Jammer's Justice, I'm Leaving You.
Yep.
So it potentially could get first run. I think it's a great spot. And, as this horse continues to develop, this could be a major step toward Greatest Stakes Company if you were able to kind of ascend. And you kind of pointed out the fact that this is kind of a bona fide entry-level allowance type race, although there are some qualified runners.
Absolutely.
All right, so as we move on, and of course, Storm Shooter, as Joe Mishak had mentioned, potentially looking at some New York bred stakes action for him. Nice thing is that he'll have some conditions to graduate through as well. Tis a Magician, hoping that we are on the march toward the Breeders' Cup World Championships. We'll get to Authentic, of course, for the big dance here later on in the show. But let's touch on new horses, shall we? Of course, horses that were purchased at Fasig-Tipton at the yearling sale the earlier part of September. Joe Mishak, tell us.
At long last, right? Now everybody's been waiting to get their hands on these new, 2 colts and 1 filly. We're just as excited as the rest of you. Later on today, that the indicate interest period will open up for those that indicated interest. We'll send your emails out in batches, which depending on when you signed up. And then tomorrow they'll go live to everybody else. And looking forward. Obviously, we're at the end of the year, so that means the Breeders' Cup, and also yearlings starting their breaking process, which these 3, along with many others, have started that breaking process. The American Pharaoh, Just Louise colt, is already down in Ocala. And the other 2 yearlings, the Into Mischief colt and the Tisnell, are at Silver Springs, which of course is adjacent to Spendthrift Farm. So definitely excited to go back out there and see those 2 next week when I'm in town for the Breeders' Cup. And the American Pharaoh colt, I think we can all attest to what really attracted us was I think all of us know that a lot of the American Pharaoh offspring tend to look like they're turf runners. He's had a lot of success on the turf with his turf runners, but this horse looked, like a true American dirt horse. So really, really separated himself in terms of all the American Pharaohs that I've ever seen at sale. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I really like the fact, again, American Pharaoh has stamped himself as not only a tremendous racehorse, Triple Crown winner, but the coveted Grade 1 was that next step, is being able to produce, which he's been able to do over the course of the last month or so, and what he was able to do as a freshman sire, speaks volumes, because he essentially continued that trend of producing winners. But I think what really struck all 3 of us the most, Joe, and myself, was the fact that this horse not only had the American Pharaoh athleticism, but he also had kind of a dirt vibe, which many of these American Pharaohs, of course, they come off as being a bit more turfier. So I think in this case, with this particular horse, loved his walk, loved his overall presence, and he had the proper angles. And at the end of the day, I thought he had a tremendous mind, which that was one particular line that you see in the American Pharaohs. They're really laid back horses and honest in the afternoons.
Yep, absolutely, no doubt. No argument from me there. It's certainly a nice looking colt, and looking forward to getting him started.
Yeah, if we just had an opportunity, you saw Daddy's Joy. She ended up 4th as an update, got hung a little bit wide off the tip of the turn, so be sure to get those updates out to you all. Into Mischief, Lost Empire. This horse takes on some of the characteristics as our Derby winner.
Yeah, all you got to do is look at him, right? I know when Joe and I were at the sale, the horse comes out of the stall, and we're just like, what do we see here? He's got the nice white blaze, the 4 white feet, And he certainly presented himself with a nice attitude. I mean, of horses you look at a sale, some come out there, obviously, like the American Pharoah line, right? They're very well behaved. They're, good minds. They do their job professionally. And there's others that come out with like their chest pumped, right? And this guy came out with his chest pumped, like, hey, I'm here. Come look at me. So he's definitely. What else can you say about Into Mischief, right? I mean, you just with Authentic and countless others. I mean, I don't think we need to really do much talking there.
Yeah.
I think the key with him obviously being out of that mare lost Empire Makers turned out to be quite a fashionable, in the late Empire Makers turned out to be quite a fashionable broodmare sire, and the fact that 2 runners to race, both winners thus far out of that progeny. So I like the fact that this horse also had a little bit of quirkiness to him, just kind of a big kid, and that was the developmental line that we saw, of course, with Authentic being a May foal. So Into Mischief lost Empire, and then of course Tis Now, Apple Down Under. Joe Moran, I know for you as well as all of us, but you in particular, this was love at first sight.
Yeah, I just thought this horse, one was the presence. You kind of mentioned that word with the American Pharoah, which I completely agree with you, but I thought the same thing with this filly. When she came out, she just had a presence about her. She had great size and scope. Generally with Tis Now, as we've had some success with Tis Magician, but a lot of times going to the sales, whether it's a 2-year-old or yearling, I'm more attracted to the fillies of Tis Now versus the colts. And this filly just did everything for us on the walk. I love the walk. She had a great mind. And we probably saw her, I want to say 5 or 6 times, and she was never phased anytime we pulled her out. And for a yearling to do that, especially a filly, that always catches my eye. So she was always one that I really liked there.
Yeah,
Joe, Joe Mishak?
No, totally. I mean, I thought she was. We were shocked when the hammer dropped at $100,000, just because of everything Joe just said. I mean, she was so professional, and every time we went back and looked at her, she had a tremendous walk, tremendous balance. Just did everything you want to see a professional horse do, right? And so I don't know, the case of Tis Now, his retirement recently, and just excited to get one of the last crops, and hopefully that as we know with most Tis Nows, they tend to develop a little bit later. And with Steve Asmussen getting this filly and having success with Lady Apple, we're looking forward to it. And hopefully we're talking about one of the steals of the auction here in a little year or two.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I appreciated most about her. She seemed to kind of have this kind of bomb-proof mentality. Nothing distracted her. I remember that particular day, we looked at her multiple times on the circle back, but I remember kind of the wind picking up and, some leaves rattling and some noise, but nothing seemed to have basically phased her. So I think in that case, as you kind of go into the battle lines of getting them broke and getting to the races, I can see her being a precocious type because of the fact that mentally she's kind of got that old soul type vibe to her. So, again, remind us of the release time on that, Joe Mishak.
We're at 3 o'clock Pacific today, and in batches. So if you don't get yours initially, you'll get it. It'll be phased out over a few hours.
All right. Well, that's quite an update. I love the dynamic between an American Pharoah and Into Mischief and a Tis Now. Boy, that just sounds magical in its own right. All right. Our social media expert is here. And, of course, she's been gallivanting between the Dodgers and the playoffs and the World Series. But it's best stuff. For me, I'm a little jealous. But at the same time, if somebody had to be there and I couldn't, I'm glad it was you. But, and I know this is an incredibly busy time in the grand scheme of things, but to MyRacehorse, what do the folks need to do, and what's in store for them if they do?
Well, a lot coming up, of course, with Breeders' Cup just around the corner. I see Joanna Johnson here was asking where to watch Breeders' Cup next weekend. Of course, it'll be on NBC both days, Friday and Saturday, so that's where you can catch all NBC Cup or Breeders' Cup coverage. Sorry. And, of course, just stay watching our channels. We'll be using #MyAuthenticBC, #MyRacehorse. We'll just be pushing out as much as possible. And I'll also be on site starting next week. So hopefully we'll to be able to get more and more coverage coming your way. I also have one quick question I would like to bring up for everyone. Merwin Olstad, sorry if I'm butchering your name, says, explain what a breeze is to us novices.
Joe Moran.
Yeah, so a breeze is going to be a workout. Now, if you're from Southern California or California like myself, generally you won't see a breeze listed. You'll see a work listed as handily and a H versus a B, but on the East Coast, you'll see a lot of Bs listed for breeze. So a breeze is another word for a workout.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
That can be very confusing, by the way, having, not only been a trainer of 14 years, but having worked with TVG, it's a question that comes up often because you see the H, you see the B, you see the D in some places, which essentially means driving in that sense, which you can do the math. Any other quick questions there, Hannah, or thoughts?
I think we can keep rolling with the show, and we're going to have another segment for questions, so keep writing them in.
All right. Well, it's hard to believe that the Breeders' Cup World Championship is next week. And I know that we've got Dora Delgado on deck, your Executive Vice President, Chief Racing Officer at the Breeders' Cup. But I quickly wanted to kind of jump into the swing of things here with Joe Moran in reference to Authentic and what's the latest and greatest on our great champion and the next step for him after having been pre-entered for our big day next Saturday.
Yeah, so everything has been great since the Preakness. We've had 2 solid works since that race. He is scheduled to work tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. at Santa Anita, and this will be the final work leading up to the race. He's scheduled to ship via Tex Sutton via plane on Tuesday. He'll get in there on Tuesday, get a few days like we've seen, pretty typical when he went to the Haskell. 1 day of jogging with the pony, a day of galloping, and then we're ready for race day. So pretty straightforward from here on out. Just, fingers crossed, knock on wood, everything continues in good order, and we have a final good breeze tomorrow.
How far does he breeze tomorrow?
Well, he'll be planning to go at least 5/8. Bob always is on the microphone and will tell his rider depending how the work goes. Last time he went 5/8 and got recorded 7/8 of a mile. So he's going to get a good, strong gallop out, but the key, he'll probably break off from the 5/8 pole.
All right, excellent. Off of the heels, so that 124 and change 7/8 drill. It's all systems go. Looking forward to that. And Hannah, just wanted to mention the fact that social media wise, being able to remind the folks out there in my racehorse land where they submit whatever questions or perhaps even videos as we get closer to the Breeders' Cup Championship, where they would send that in.
Yeah, of course. So, of course, we'll have a Breeders' Cup show coming your way next week. More details to come next week. Of course, we're still getting it all figured out. But, to continue to use the hashtag MyRacehorse, hashtag MyAuthenticBC, and we'll be able to see all those reactions and everything on Breeders' Cup Saturday. But leading up, we'd love to see anything you're doing, to see your preparations. Maybe you're at home parties. So keep on tagging us. We'd love to see it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I think it's a great time to bring in our special guest. And I'm sure you've seen her name and many of great highlights because she's done an exceptional job along with her husband, of course, the Breeders' Cup for a number of years dating back. But we're going to get some background on this special guest.
Not to interrupt.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we did have, I think, a little Breeders' Cup history to bring up. We're excited to be talking Breeders' Cup with Dora, so that's why we've invited her to talk. Wanted to share a video of the history of Breeders' Cup before we get started, talking with her.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I think we'll pull up that video right now.
A legend born in the early 80s when breeder John Gaines formulated an audacious plan.
Mr. Gaines had a grand vision. John Gaines saw the light.
A multi-million-dollar day of championships, showcasing American racing to a global audience. With the help of his friends, Gaines' idea would become known as Breeders' Cup. Fast forward to 1984. Dallas was the #1 TV show. There was Reagan, the Rubik's Cube, and a recording artist from Minneapolis who ruled both the box office and the music charts.
I love when doves cry.
But on November 10th, a landmark event of the 80s was to take place at Hollywood Park.
The first Breeders' Cup was full of excitement.
The stands were packed. The racing was unbelievable.
Bringing together the greatest talents in the game, the Breeders' Cup was born. And it was the classic that day that would set the tone for the next quarter century.
And they're off in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
It was wild again, and they were coming down the stretch of Hollywood Park.
And a dramatic finish. Wild again does it. Pate, give us that cheer again.
We all knew this was big.
Over the next 24 years, the Breeders' Cup would establish itself as horse racing's Olympic Games. Epic showdowns playing themselves out at North America's most storied racetracks.
Two Derby winners hit the wire together. What a day for trainer Richard Mandela. Was it 3.5 or was it 4 he won this afternoon?
We officially started calling him the Pope on that day.
A huge upset looming here. Here is our king to win it in an absolute shocker.
Everybody said at the same time, who in the hell was that?
Flanders, Serena's song. Flanders looks like she got her nostril on the wire. Easy Goer is set down and he's put to a fierce drive.
From the side of Anisi Gore, Joe Fletcher and Muhammad Ali.
Sunday silence surges to the front. Easy Goer and Sunday silence holds on. When he throws it there, personal instant, a dramatic finish, and here is the wire.
But there's just been so many super moments.
The incomparable, invincible, unbeatable cigar.
From the inaugural running in '84 was celebrated names like Day, Whittingham, and Phipps. To the 25th running at Santa Anita in 2008, where a new generation of horsemen will shine.
What a 25 years.
The legend continues. The legend continues.
The legend continues.
The legend continues.
That video definitely gave me chills in a good way. And what a great way to bring on Dora Delgado. That video, of course, we want to let you know, is from a few years ago, I think 2009, and it was from the 25th anniversary. But definitely a great way to show what the Breeders' Cup is all about, and it is now. Shout out. So I'll leave it to you, Dora, but welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. That was some chills. It's hard to believe that I started with the Breeders' Cup in 1983. I mean, that witnessing so many of these events over the years, you do somewhat forget, when you get to your 37th one, how significant and impactful that was. But wow, that is some chills right there.
Also, I'm loving your saddle towel behind you. That is just great for us to see. So, of course.
Absolutely.
Loving that placement.
Yeah, I might have to bid on that one behind you.
There you go. I know I'm guarding it with my life. I borrowed it from Frank to say, he's like, don't let anything happen to it.
I love it. It's still in the plastic, and you've got some hardware next to that. But Dora, it truly is a pleasure to have you and a privilege to have you on the show today. And thank you so much. And I know that our paths have crossed since probably the early 90s, if you will. I do remember the first time I watched the Breeders' Cup. It was the inaugural running. And I was actually sitting in a living room in Las Vegas with my father, and I'll never forget that thrilling stretch run with Wild Again, Slew of Gold, Gate Dancer. And, those memories are the ones that we take on for a lifetime. And the one thing I can appreciate about the Breeders' Cup, and not only our relationship, because of the fact that you've always been so kind and open and willing to assist, but the fact that you meet so many wonderful people, because it is an international event. And, tell us, again, about your role. And you mentioned when it began, but what consists of a day like today?
Absolutely. So, it's interesting. When I started, I was fresh out of high school. Actually, I started as a summer job, just thinking I'll take over, and I'll make a little money over the summer before I start college. And I just never quite left, finished up my degree, but kept working for Breeders' Cup. And it's hands down the best job in the world. I'm just going to tell you that right now. There's nothing that can compare to this. The amazing people that I've met over the years, the amazing horses that I've witnessed, give it their all on the track has been just I mean, one of the most thrilling and enjoyable experiences of my life. I'm now the chief racing officer for Breeders' Cup, which basically means I take care of everything equine related, from importing horses to security to veterinary exams to taking care of the horsemen, making sure they're all nominated. We have a global nominations program that I'm the head of. So anything equine related, it generally falls under my umbrella.
Well, it sounds like a lot of responsibility, and I'm sure that you get, plenty of channels from various areas, and the fact that it is, a world-class event. In light of what we're dealing with the COVID-19, the pandemic, I'm sure that this year in particular has become more super intensive as far as just trying to make sure that things are locked down and regulations are in store.
We weren't sure that we were even going to be able to have an event. Obviously, when all this started and racing calendars got pushed back and major stakes got delayed or even canceled altogether, it has been a nonstop process from March until now to keep working with the government regulations, working with our medical advisors to see what we could handle, what we could put in place. We knew from the beginning that if we were going to have the races, our number one priority was to get these races run. Even if we couldn't have the participants, even if we couldn't have the fans, we knew the industry needed the event itself. We knew we could put on a good made-for-television program. Just even if we put the championship races on. I mean, the things we've put in place for people to watch at home are amazing. It was just a nonstop effort. We worked so hard to make sure we could have participants, working with the governor here. And we really believe we've created a very safe environment. We created a bubble over our barn area, pretty much, with anybody that was going to have access back there. Trainers and stable staff and veterinarians all had to be COVID tested. They've had to register, for virtual badges, for credentials. We've just double checked and triple checked. We've put in protocols for jockeys. It's about as safe as you can make it, for sure.
Kudos to you and your staff, and of course it's going to be a mad drive over the course of the next 8 days for sure. So a salute to you and the work that you do. And in your, I guess, best means of coming up with an answer, what makes the Breeders' Cup so prestigious? I mean, we obviously know it's a world championship, but what makes it so prestigious? And at the end of the day, a Super Bowl, if you will.
Yeah. So, the difference between the Breeders' Cup World Championships and many events worldwide is that we're a non-invitational event. So unless you've won a win and you're in challenge race where you basically get a golden ticket to run, everybody else has to pay entry fees. They have to travel. They have to get here. It's very expensive. So when you make a commitment to run in the World Championships, you're making a definitive statement about the quality of your horse. So that right there has elevated the races beyond, a normal ship in and run at your local track for a stake. It attracts that world-class competition. Number one, because it's $31 million in purses and awards, which you're just not going to find that many places. And number two, we've spent the last decade making sure that it's a must-see event, that it's an experience that has to be best in class for our owners, trainers, breeders, and those connections that travel here to the event. So we've done a lot of enhanced experiences around the event. Unfortunately, this year's not going to be a great example of that due to the restrictions in place, but we're hoping that we can get that back on track at Del Mar. But having that those added experiences for our Breeders' Cup owners and trainers, they really appreciate it. It's almost like a reunion of sorts, because they see each other sometimes only once a year, and it's at the Breeders' Cup. So the social aspect of it, of seeing other owners that have these kind of runners is amazing. And they really enjoy the opportunity to get together, compete against each other, and see who's the best.
Yeah, I think it's just a tremendous cross fiber of personalities to boot. I mean, not only the horses on the racetrack. But now that it's a 2-day event, essentially, since that has taken place, there were some that kind of argued the point, hey, just make it a 1-day thing. But knowing that it is global, the fact that you're wanting to include as many as you can and give them the opportunity, I think a 2-day event is a tremendous thing that we have. When looking at the Breeders' Cup, and obviously you reflected on some wonderful memories of you having been there for this many years. What would you consider your most favorite Breeders' Cup memory?
It's really, really hard to choose, but my standard answer on this is hands down Zenyatta at Churchill. She was so physically imposing. She was just massive, over 17 hands. She knew herself. She was in her prime, coming off a win in the Ladies Classic, then coming back to win the Classic, the first filly that had ever done that, the first horse that had ever won different races in Breeders' Cup history. When she came into the paddock at Churchill Downs, she strode in like a rock star, and the flash bulbs and the cameras, and it literally looked like a scene, like a movie star had arrived on the red carpet. And for the first time in history, I had to shut down the paddock access. I've never had to do that before or since, where it just got to be too many people in there. We had to shut it down. Even if you had credentials, there was no more admittance. And her power move, where she danced and extended those legs, it's indelibly etched in my memory. And I swear every time I watch that video, I think she's going to get there. It's just heartbreaking all over again.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I think if you polled 10 people, I would say the greater percentage would have said the Santa Anita Breeders' Cup win, because, and that's the fantastic thing about the game, because the fact that you look at it from the moment that you were there, flashbulbs going off like a skit, out of a Hollywood movie, and she got beat that day. But I think that in defeat, you can measure the greatest victory. And that, for me personally, was the case. I mean, it was unfortunate she got beat on the wire like that, but it's just the determination and the fanfare that she had. So that truly is, I love that memory. That's a great memory. All right, here's another one. How about your favorite Breeders' Cup race?
That's another tough one. And I end up going back to the distaff. It is so packed with talent every year, and its impact on the breed is just amazing. These are mares that are always Eclipse Award winners. Their progeny come back to race in Breeders' Cup. I mean, we've had 2 remarkable mares that have, bred, won themselves, and then bred a horse that's gone on to win. And nobody has beat Personal Ensign. She won, My Flag won, then Storm Flag Flying won. I mean, that's an incredible legacy. And I think that's why I really like the distaff. It's just legacies being built right there.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. And obviously we could go into a whole nother dissertation on what Swiss Skydiver is going to do. I know you don't have the answer. Obviously she's kind of got a twofold situation going on here, but do you have any insight on Swiss Skydiver and what the plan is?
I don't. Kenny's keeping that pretty close to his chest, but I mean, a 3-year-old filly attempting the Classic would be, incredible. We have the Kentucky Derby winner, we have the Belmont winner, we have the Preakness winner. I mean, this Classic is going to be an outstanding competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that at the end of the day, you couldn't ask for a better opportunity. And again, with the COVID-19, the pandemic, it's obviously shifted the calendar, but to be in this position, to have this lineup of horses is truly an incredible accomplishment. So, all right, I know you touched on this, but for someone that had no idea what the Breeders' Cup World Championships are, how would you explain it to them?
It kind of goes back to when John Gaines created it, and he wanted to have that year-end season finale. We had the spring classics, we had the summer derbies, but there was no end of year competition where everybody laid it out at the same time, head to head. West Coast took on East Coast. So for me, it's always been almost, not only the Super Bowl, the World Series of racing, but the Olympics of horse racing, because you have every age, every sex, distance, surface. It's a showcase for the talented runners that we get to see all year long, and then finally get to see them at the year's end going against each other. It's the age old, what horse racing is based on. Is my horse better than your horse? And so for people from international locations, from the West Coast, from the East Coast, that don't get to experience that at their local track, and then they finally get to see these world-class names taking on each other on racing's biggest stage, it's just hands down the most exciting, 2 days in sports.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. All right, well, here's the $1 million question. How much sleep will you get the night before the Breeders' Cup next Thursday night?
I'm sorry, sleep is what? No, there's no sleep. I mean, that's just besides going just nonstop on all the planning, we get on site for Breeders' Cup about 17 days out, and it's pretty much nonstop. We'll catch up on that in December sometime. It'll be all right.
No, that's the spirit. Well, Dora, beautiful as always, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate, on behalf of all of us at MyRacehorse.com, you taking out your valuable time and enlightening us on the experience, because it truly is an experience. Despite COVID-19 pandemic, this Breeders' Cup will be the best yet, and we can thank you and your entire staff for making it what it is. We thank you for that.
Thank you, Sarge, so much. It was so enjoyable to talk to you guys today. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, it does take a village, and Breeders' Cup staff is some of the hardest working people we have. And they have really all put it out on the line this year to make sure we've got a great event. So tune in, watch us. I think it's going to be some spectacular racing.
All right, Dora, look forward to seeing you, I'm sure.
All right, we're back. That was quite a segment. I definitely enjoyed listening to Dora.
I'll be seeing you on NBC.
There we go.
Once again, a big thank you to Dora.
I think we're having some technical issues with Sarge. I'm sorry if I was talking right over him. Also, Joe, Moran, and Mishek, you are both muted. So if
I'm
you're
off
talking
now. I'm off.
Right. I think we had some issues getting back there, but
He's back. He's back.
Right.
It was you
He's
and
back.
not me this time, so I'm happy. I'm happy.
I was coming apart like a soup sandwich, I'll tell you that. Hopefully, with Dora again, I want to thank her, for the time. And
well,
he's back at it again. He's back at it again. But Joe, what's your favorite Breeders' Cup race of all time?
Well, see, I would have to go on what Nick said to Dora, was when she won the Breeders' Cup Classic, her first go around. I mean, I still watch that video, and my girlfriend's probably sick of how many times I've made her watch that video. I mean, between just her and seeing her from the start of her career was phenomenal. And Trevor Denman's call in that race, I mean, just thinking about it in my head, I'm getting excited and getting the chills. It's just something, it truly was unbelievable, as Trevor said.
I agree.
Yeah, all-time great call. And for me, obviously it was a great race, but for me, it's Songbird and Beholder. And I'm also talking about, a great race call. I think Larry Colmus was so into the race that he was almost forgetting about how to call the race sometimes. So, I mean, that was just a stretch goal. I was there in person, seeing them fight from the quarter pole to the wire was just something great. But very exciting. We're all excited. Another week away. Can't wait to get it going. Hannah, I know you said you had some social media questions. So, if there's anything that Joe and I can help out with to close the show.
Definitely. I don't know for you, Moran, if Mishak is frozen. Okay, we can hear
Yeah.
You're frozen right now, so at least you.
I got it.
He's smiling though, so that's great.
Yeah.
A few quick questions, and then of course, to wrap it. Oh, there he is, and it's still a little blurry. It's all good. We're gonna just roll with it. As far as lottery, we're getting a lot of questions, of course, about a lottery, like we did for the Preakness race. Questions about that. So I'll let one of you answer if we're going to be doing a lottery for Breeders'.
Yeah. The plan is we're still finalizing some final details, but any tickets that we do have available, we will run a lottery. Until we get the final details of that, we will provide them as we did with the Preakness. I know everyone is urgent to get all the details right away, but we're doing our best and we'll get it to you right away.
Great. And then, of course, we're getting some questions about any kind of parties in Lexington around Breeders' Cup since fans aren't allowed. I don't know. There's a lot of restrictions considering COVID. So
yeah. So we did send out a few interest emails as we were trying to schedule a few events. We are still finalizing a few things. Also, the governor came out with some restrictions of COVID right now. So we're still trying to finalize some things around that and how we're able to run certain events if we need to do some things differently than originally planned. So once any of those details are finalized, we will send out emails to all you that we're interested in coming.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that's kind of all the questions we have regarding to Breeders' Cup. Again, a few questions about where to watch. It will be on NBC, and we will stay tuned for more information. Of course, we'll have some shows coming your way, a chat party, a show on the day of. So just stay tuned for all of that information.
Yeah, and one thing, just because I know a lot of people, if you haven't watched the Breeders' Cup every single year, when you're watching the pre-races, it will be on NBC Sports. The big race generally will transfer over from NBC Sports to NBC as a national broadcast. So make sure you're aware of that so you don't miss any of the pre-race analysis or the actual race, most importantly.
Good mention. Yes, you are right about that.
You'll also have the opportunity to watch it on TVG, being that the championships are at Keeneland, so TVG will.
Great.
They got the breakfast at the Breeders' Cup as well, a show featured throughout the week. So be sure to tune in. I want to apologize on behalf of Cox Internet. It's been a process all week long, but
it happens.
Life okay. As we know it. But I think you guys covered the questions, right? Hannah, Joe, you guys were good there?
I think we're good. I see a hashtag question from Joanna Johnson. She said, what is the MyRacehorse hashtag for Breeders' Cup? So far, it's just MyAuthenticBC. And, of course, just use hashtag MyRacehorse as well. We'll be scanning all channels. And please keep posting your content.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's a wrap for today's show. But, of course, the Let It Ride. Joe Moran, remind us what race Sunday?
Shoot, you're putting me on the spot. Race 7 or 8. I had it up and I put it away. You're killing me putting me on the spotlight.
I love it. No, it's race 8, and post time is 4 p.m. Pacific.
I knew that.
Okay.
I knew that.
All right.
Post number 2.
Well, once again, a big thank you to Dora Delgado for taking out her time, her valuable time, and enlightening us on the Breeders' Cup World Championship experience. Joe Mishak, you mentioned the launch this afternoon for the 3 that we discussed. I'm excited about that. Joe Moran, keep doing what you do. And Hannah, keep smiling and shining as you do. And, for today's show, this is Nick Hines of SARDS signing off. And until next time, we'll see you in the winner's circle.